Owing to the fact that the city is relatively close to where I live, as you all know, we are now going to take a look, and this might take multiple videos, but of looking at the just really insane temperature swings that took hold of New York City. Um, really, the temperature swings that took over New York City during the month of February, and we had them too, but New York City is even more extreme in that regard than us here. So, to start off, February 1st looks like a typical winter day, um, as does the second. Well, the second actually looks warmer. So the second looks a bit above average, while the first is a bit below average. February 3rd really takes a big warm up, especially in the city. Here it wasn't as substantial. In the city it was, but on February 4th, that changes. The temperature in the middle of a storm gets up to 56 degrees. That's warmer than it was here. And here we also hit that point earlier, and it was not as warm here. Then the temperature plummets. It plummets about an hour before it does where I live, and it plummets down to 40 degrees. The temperature continues to simmer off to 28, and unlike here in New York City, they actually recorded some light snow. This was Winter Storm Landon, which also spawned tornadoes in Alabama and overall was responsible for the deaths of 8 people. The temperature continued to crash as it then got to 20 degrees the next night. February 6th would get down all the way to 18 degrees before the temperature would finally begin to make a recovery. This day was particularly yucky, especially here, because even though it was raining and it wasn't snowing, to me, I'd rather actually have snow than rain in the 30s. Um, the other day was a bit better because at least it did get into the 40s and briefly cracked into the 50s, you know. But then it begins to clear. And what actually happens is that you actually get to some days where, I mean, it got windy than they said here, and you did still need to layer up, but it actually did manage to get into the 50s, which was really nice. Even though it got really cold at night again, though it got colder here, I mean, it still managed to get into the mid 50s, which was really nice. And you don't really see that often in February, so that was above normal. Now, where I live, it actually up to 60, but I was in the city at the time, and I think the warmest air I could catch was 59. But it actually got to 57 degrees here. It had a cold front, and where I live, it got colder at night here, but then they had the cold front first. And this is a big temperature swing. Like the February 4th, the 5th one, this is a big temperature swing that I wanted to keep note of. Because look, that was on the 13th. Snow comes in and the temperature is already in the 30s by the next morning. All that heat is erased. And it continues to drop off until midnight, where it gets down to 26 degrees. The 14th, it gets down to 17 before it rebounds to 28 degrees. It got really cold. It got well below average after being well above average. The 15th, though, it would crack freezing. And the 16th, while it started out relatively cold, it would end at 45 degrees. It had a storm system that was coming in. But this storm system would cause an even bigger temperature plummet than the one before, but it has less notability because there's little information about it. On the 17th, while we didn't get into 64-degree territory, New York City actually did. We only got to 56 degrees, and then it got to, I believe, about that same temperature when the temperature plummeted. It was nice, though, even here. February 18th comes, and it gets up to 61 degrees in the city. I had a break, and then the temperature crashes. Like both here and in New York City, the temperature plummet was over the course of an entire day, and it didn't substantially deteriorate over any particular hour in particular. It's just that over the course of a few hours, it began to get yucky. It got down to 42 degrees at 10 a.m., and as you ride it down, it got to 28 degrees. This is the day I flew out to Seattle, where, as you can see, the high was 41, the low was 25, it was yucky. And you'll find out quickly why it was a mistake to visit Seattle during these particular 5 days that I did.